it's Starzy, and today I am going to be doing the makeup and books tag because these are two things that I love a lot, so it makes sense to do something that combines the two of them. So if you would like to see me create this chaotic look and talk about books, stay tuned, I guess. Makeup and books tag. Alright, let's do this. Okay, the first prompt of this is primer. Pick a book that left a lasting impression. I barely ever wear primer anymore, but I do always wear moisturizer, especially with SPF 50+, because I'm a pale bitch who burns very easily. Now the way we're going to do this tag is pretty much just whatever the first book that came to mind is what we're going to be talking about. And the thing that comes to mind for this, in a strange way, is Bunny by Mona Rawad, which is a weird horror thing, but the reason I'm saying this is because I consume a lot of media. I read a lot of books, I watch a lot of crap, and so there's always new things going into my mind. And so as such, it's not very often that I consciously think back on specific things from books that I've read previously, but this book, scenes from it keep playing in my head now. It's been over a month since I read it now. Whether it's the disturbing stuff or whether it's the fashion described in the book, I don't know what it is about this book. I think I really feel like I really need to buy a physical copy of it for myself, because I don't know what it is about this book, but it's stuck with me. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like every time, I feel like I've mentioned this book a lot recently and never really given a good description of it, but I don't know, cult vibes, animal sacrifice, weird crap. Alright, I usually do my base first, but because I kind of feel like I want to do something a little bit crazy and colourful with my eye makeup, and that could get messy, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do my base after I do my eyeshadow today. Alright, so I think the next thing I'm going to be going for here then is brows. And the prompt for this is a book that you think everyone should read. For this, I'm going to go for, what's it called? I've had a mind blank. Talking to My Country by Stan Grant. Especially if you are Australian, especially if you are a white Australian. This is a book written by an Indigenous Australian journalist, and I think everyone really needs to be aware of the fact that our country as we know it was built on racism, and there is still a lot of systematic racism that occurs now because of that. And a lot of people are kind of ignorant of it. And this book basically just is a little bit personal history of Stan Grant, a little bit general history, and just an overall really a discussion about what it's like to be, to live here as an Aboriginal Australian. So yeah, so in terms of something I think everyone should read, I think that's a good starting point when it comes to really being empathetic of other people around us, and you know, these are the things we need to change. Alright, we can tidy those brows up a bit more later, but so that we know what we're working with. Right, now is going to be the fun part. Have I decided what I'm doing with my eyeshadow? I don't know how this is going to turn out because I'm going to do something I haven't done before, which is fun but scary. Eyeshadow is pick a book that has your favourite colours on the cover. My favourite colour is pink, and probably the pinkest book I currently own is the illustrated cover of Cinder by Marissa Meyer, which I did actually really enjoy those books when I read them years back too, because they are YA sci-fi fairy tale retellings, and I really love and always have really loved fairy tale retellings. They're space fantasy, not hard sci-fi. But I did enjoy them when I read them some years back now, and yeah, it's a very pink cover, and a cover I like quite a lot. But this eyeshadow is going to take me a while, and I don't think I have anything else to ramble about at the moment. See, this is why I didn't do the makeup down there. This is going to get messy. The fairy tale train, The Last Wish, but the first book in the Witcher series I also really enjoyed because of all the fairy tale-ness to it. Really relevant to this prompt, but fairy tales. If anyone ever has like fairy tale retelling recommendations, I have read a lot, but I'm sure there's a lot out there that I haven't read, and it is a thing I like. I also just read Fables, which is a comic book series, and it's fairy tale characters essentially in our modern world because they're trapped here, and it had a bit of kind of a murder mystery to it, and I did really enjoy that, although it's very white comic book series. Very white, very straight, but then it is European fairy tales. I also really love, there was a video game that was based on Fables, which I loved when I played that years back, and it's why I wanted to read the comic book series in the first place, Wolf Among Us, which I think they're finally making a sequel to that now, so keen for that. Today is going to be one of those days where it's like borderline clown makeup. Can't be bothered being neat and tidy with it, which with this eyeshadow palette particularly, I don't know if you can see, it's like you get a lot of fallout. This is like probably my messiest eyeshadow palette I have. But like I definitely have colourful eyeshadow palettes that are better quality, but I don't have these colours anywhere else, so we work with what we have. It's all over my overalls too. That palette is a mess. Oh well, colours on overalls, we can go for that messy artist look, it's fine. Now this is the eyeshadow palette that I usually use most of the time I have really colourful looks. Because like, look at it, like, but yeah, it doesn't really have like a bright purple, like this is a really dark purple, and it doesn't have any blue mattes, which I don't understand. It has mattes of like every other colour. Oh, I said it was matte blue, but so what am I doing next? Foundation. What foundation do I want to use today? I'm going to use this, which I think is actually too pale for me, and it's definitely not my favourite foundation ever, but like in the interest of using stuff up, and also it's kind of bizarre for me when makeup's too pale for me, because most brands don't stock makeup light enough for me to begin with. Foundation, pick your favourite first book in a series. I guess my favourite book I read last year was the first book in a series, so let's just go with Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. Adult fantasy humor, bands that are based on our modern rock bands but are actually mercenary bands in this world. Feels like a off-the-rail D&D campaign. It's a book that's just a lot of fun more than anything else, but then it's also quite heartfelt, and like I actually cared about the characters in a way that I definitely wasn't expecting, because it's a group of old men on kind of a typical fantasy quest to an extent. It's just a lot of fun, and I really like things that are just fun and also have a lot of those typical fantasy elements, but at the same way was twisting it in its own way in a number of ways. The fact that this makeup's so pale, along with like the bright different colours, I'm feeling a little bit Harley Quinn today, and I'm not mad about it. But yeah, Kings of the Wild. I did just read Bloody Rose, and I didn't enjoy it as much, and I did have there were a few things that niggled at me a little bit, which I guess I'll talk about when I get to doing my wrap up. I do really like, this is probably the brands that I probably have the most makeup from are Revolution Beauty and Chi Chi, which Chi Chi is an Australian makeup brand, but they are both cheaper brands, and they are both cruelty free, and they do actually have a lot of decent products. So concealer, pick a character you wish you could get rid of. This is one that I don't know if I really have an answer for, because I feel like even if there are characters I don't like, in most cases, in books particularly, like, if you got rid of them, it would completely change the story a lot of the time, so I wouldn't necessarily get rid of them completely. I mean, or like I can appreciate them for what they are despite hating them, like the Joker, for instance. I hate Joker, but I really appreciate him as a villain at the same time. So, or like, I really don't like Will Herondale, but if you removed him from the Infernal Devices, it would, you know, the books would not exist as they are. I'm sure there are just like annoying side characters that if you removed them, they wouldn't change anything about the story, but like, there aren't any that I can consciously remember at the moment. Like, I'm sure they exist, and but I clearly, you know, I didn't like them enough for them to have even stuck in my mind. So I can't think of any really for that. Powder, pick your favourite last book in a series. I don't know if I can think of a last book where I'm particularly like, yeah, that's my favourite last book in a series, or often it's the case that I don't necessarily love the last books or as much as the other ones in the series, or I feel like in some cases I didn't like how things were by the end of a series. I guess there's Dark Dawn, which is the last book for, you know, Nevernight by J. Kristoff. Even though there were things in that book that I didn't necessarily sit the best with me, but overall, like, I still enjoyed that whole series a lot. So there's that. Even though that book wrecked me. That book wrecked me, and I feel like the character that I got so wrecked over as well, like, I don't know if it was weird that that was the case. I mean, there was like a bigger death later in the book that didn't affect me at all, and yet that's the one where I was like, had to put the book down. Yeah, I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I think I'm going to finish my face and then come back to finishing off my eyes. Is that how I want to do it? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Blush, pick a book that had some cringe-worthy romance. I think what I'm going to go for, cringe-worthy romance, one of the most recent romances I read was The Worst Best Man, which I did actually really enjoy, but I definitely do think it's like a cringe-worthy romance because they were definitely, like, I definitely don't think it's like the best book out there, but I just really enjoyed it. You know, you've got that kind of rivalry banter to begin with, and other romances I've enjoyed have been like The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren and The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. They've probably been some of my favourites. I do enjoy myself a cringeworthy romance every now and again. But I find at the same time I can very easily not enjoy romances, mostly because of some of the types of characters and tropes that you see sometimes in them, which I've talked about a bit before. Alright, highlighter. I pick a book that brightened your day. I'm going to go for The Tea Dragon Society. It's just... The Tea Dragon Society is so precious and wholesome, and there's just cute dragons and tea and some diverse representation, and it's just adorable, and so that's what I have to say about that. This is like my favourite. Whoa, this is so messy, that's embarrassing. But the Aurora palette by Anastasia, which, my name, because I like bright colours and things that are a bit different, and this has all of those type of colours in it. So go on with my different coloured theme. I'm putting blue on one side and purple on the other. I'm erasing myself from the narrative. The fact that I have never watched Hamilton, but I know so many of the songs because of TikTok. I generally use Essence eyeliners and mascaras because they're like the cheapest ones out there, and they work just as well, if not better, than some of the high-end things I've tried. So, eyeliner, pick a dark and mysterious book. So the first thing that comes to mind for dark and mysterious, honestly, is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Even though I have mixed feelings about that because of the fact of how long it took me to get into it. However, I did end up enjoying it, and you know, it's dark horror themes, dark fantasy, ghosts, mystery, some really messed up stuff. Alright, there's some quick messy eyeliner, that'll do. So mascara, pick a long book. Where is my mascara? Packaging is just like the cutest thing. But a long book. I don't know if there's any like really long books I've read that I would necessarily recommend. I mean, the longest book I feel like I've ever read is possibly It by Stephen King. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Definitely feel like it's too long, and there's some weird stuff in there that if it was cut out would have been much better. And also just like men writing women and writing young girls can be interesting. It can be interesting. And then the other book I remember I think was pretty long that I read when I was a teenager was another horror book, Let the Right One In, which again, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it because it has a lot of weird and disturbing stuff in it, even though one of my favourite movies is based on it, and also in 2017, It is one of my favourite movies. I don't know what it is about me reading weird, long horror books, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I've read that was a particularly long book that I'd be like, yes, actually, it was great and everyone should read it. The fact that this is going to be the longest amount of raw footage that I've ever had editing this is going to be great. I'm kind of digging this look though, to be honest. Alright, the last prompt I think then, because I don't contour, I've never contoured in my life. So the last prompt is lipstick, your favourite book kiss. And I hadn't really thought about lipstick. What are we thinking? I'm too indecisive for this. What colour lipstick do I want? I don't know whether I like usually really tend to explicitly remember book kisses, but I guess I did. One that has stuck in my mind from a book I just read recently is I just read The Dark Tide, and the kiss in that was just described in such a picturesque way that ever since I've read it, I've really wanted to draw it. So I still might have to do an art piece of that at one point, because there was like floating fire, and you've got like blonde and dark hair and like the contrast and everything. So just like visually in my head, beautiful and also sapphic. So we love to see it. Alright, because I feel like being truly extra, I'm gonna try and add some glitter. This could be a bad idea. As such, I think we should add a prompt for glitter. And since I've been putting glitter on my face since I was quite young, let's go for a childhood favourite, which is basically my excuse to talk about Del Toro Quest, which was my favourite series as a kid, and I guess really got me into that kind of darker fantasy stuff, because for a kid's series, it's pretty dark. Kind of your epic quest to get a bunch of magic gemstones for a belt to defeat, whoa. Some purple lipsticks I find are fine. Some make your teeth look really yellow, especially when you've got a really white face makeup on. But I digress. Del Toro Quest, epic quest to complete a magic belt to drive out essentially the evil that is currently ruling the land. It is, yeah, very dark, but it was my favourite thing as a kid. Well, my favourite series I read as a kid, really. And yes. I've got that little bit of glitter. Whoa. Ooh, I have a glitter lipstick. Where's that? Let's just stop before I go too crazy. Ooh, my hair is not going to be sitting well now after putting it back while it was damp. So I guess this is the completed chaotic look. Hope you enjoyed hearing me ramble about books, and create this mess that I kind of love, other than how yellow my teeth look. Either way, it was fun to combine two of my great loves in one video. I have an hour of raw footage to edit now. That's what I've done to myself. And yeah, be sure to leave me a comment. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and if, you know, I should incorporate more random makeup stuff into my content, because it is a lot of fun. Leave me a comment. What do you think of any of the books that I mentioned? Do you like makeup? I don't know. Just comment something. Talk to me in the comments, because this took way too long. Yeah, anyway, stay safe. Starzy out. Honestly, that little bit of glitter in the corner is everything.